Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Kevin Gallagher. Just a brief news rundown, a sort of accounting of the goings-on in our wonderful, weird community. But before we get into that, it would be remiss if we did not bring up sponsors of the show, GOATs of the BJJ merch, apparel, and training gear game. No judges needed. The absolute one-stop shop for all of your needs if you are a grappler of any kind. We're talking casual wear that just really screams the culture, amazing logo, amazing material. You're getting the best of the best when you order from these guys, along with hoodies, rash guards, tank tops, gis modeled by the immaculate Mr. Kevin Gallagher. And they are kind enough to work with us to get you guys, our viewers, a promo code that'll get you 20% off all purchases. And really, when you buy from these guys, you're really buying back into the community. You're helping invest in the community. These guys do a lot of work sponsoring fighters, like helping events, and really just generating a lot of positivity in what many would describe as not a very positive time for humanity. So again, that is code JJT at checkout. Let them know we sent you. You're helping them out, you're helping us out, and you're helping your wallet out. So go do that right now. We'll wait. Okay, I assume all of you went and bought a ton of stuff. So let's just get right into the news before that. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Been a busy week, but hey, you know what? Busy weeks are good, man. It's been a busy week in the Jiu-Jitsu MMA world. It's lots of topics and lots of conversations afloat.
The fight,
big things
man.
To review. Yeah, that Khabib fight was amazing.
You saw it, right?
Yeah, of course I did. Yeah,
were you watching it live?
I watched it live. Yeah, I mean, it was a weird start time. To have it start at 2:00 in the afternoon was a bit odd to me. I talked to Billy Quarantello, got a little inside information, and he seemed to believe that it had something to do with the fact that they wanted it to go prime time in Moscow or in Russia because the Khabib has such a big Russia following. And, that ties greatly into the fact that I don't think that they did a very huge amount of work or put a lot of work into marketing for this. Yeah, I didn't see much talk about this fight at all. I was like, oh, wow, the Khabib Gaethje fights this weekend. And the magnitude of the fight, it didn't seem like the UFC was too concerned with getting it out there. So they may have been promoting it more in the European market because Khabib's bigger over there.
I mean, I noticed that you the first thing I saw on social media right after the fight was actually you posting this quote, Gaethje will do it, and then a little mini you laughing his ass off
with the banana peels in the back. I thought that was funny. Well, I firmly believe that Gaethje had a chance. Gaethje had a chance to win. He's got a puncher's chance. He could beat anybody.
His hands looked heavy in the beginning. There were some exchanges on the feet. But Khabib looked great on the feet as well. It wasn't really like he was in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Gaethje never got a chance to get off. Khabib's pressure is just otherworldly, and it goes to the idea that it wasn't necessarily because everyone talks about Khabib's pressure as far as his top pressure after the takedown because he'll take you down and he'll grind you out and he'll suck the life out of you. But Khabib was putting a particular type of pressure on Gaethje by coming forward, and because Gaethje was so concerned about the takedown, he had to keep moving around. He had to keep circling off the cage and could never set his feet, which is what power punchers need to do to get power off of their punches, off of their strikes. And because he's moving around, that constant pressure moving forward, if you notice at the end of the first round, Gaethje looked beat. He looked spent.
Yeah.
We're talking about an all-American D1 wrestler that got taken down off of the cage. And you could just see the look in his face of like,
wrestler. Yeah.
Like, what the hell is going on here? Like that pressure of Khabib is otherworldly, and it truly showed through tonight. And his stand-up was amazing. He was beating the better striker, everyone said, to the punch constantly.
I think that we recently got some more insight into the fight from former champion Daniel Cormier himself, close friend and teammate of Khabib. And that is that while he had the armbar locked up, he actually made the conscious effort to switch to the triangle, as he had heard in the lead up that Gaethje was not going to tap. And he was like, I don't want to break this man's arm in front of his family.
Right.
That is the most gangster shit. That is like that knowing you have a guy in a way that's going to just make him hurt in front of people he loves. And the fact, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you could pop out of a triangle. Like, if you have a submission locked up, transitioning to a different one, there's an opening there. He's leaving openings for escape. He
100%.
Literally made his job harder
and
injected more risk into this fight.
Because he had the arm trapped in the armpit, the arm bar was, all he had to do was hip into it. He would have broke his arm. And it makes finishing the triangle that much more difficult because the arm is now not across the chin. Now it's finishable, but it makes it more difficult to finish. And, all of these things just add to the mystique that makes Khabib the most amazing dominant fighter in their history of MMA, as far as I'm concerned. Now it's debatable. I'm not saying that as an absolute, because there's other guys out there, Fedor, you talk about John Jones, you talk about all the things they've accomplished.
I don't want to, with how John's been acting on social media, I just want to spit him out.
Just saying the name makes me go,
if after that he's there's a way for him to not be a dick, and it's like after that, maybe wait at least a month,
give it a week
before you go, I'm the real goat. Like,
give it a week,
maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Right.
Like, we're not saying no, but
and we could talk a whole lot about the body of work of John Jones versus Khabib. And you know what? John Jones is on an elite level with the fights. I think it's 15 title defenses against. He fought everybody. You can say whatever you want about John Jones. Yeah, he was a pain in the ass. Yeah, he did a lot of things wrong, and he, fought everyone. Finished 15 title defenses. He's probably the greatest fighter of all time, but he was an asshole and couldn't get his shit together. So there's always going to be that asterisk. Like when you talk about guys that are the GOAT, like Michael Jordan, no one debates it. No questions asked. You could LeBron James can try to pretend, but Michael Jordan is far behind the great because he never left any questions in anybody's mind. John Jones fucked up, got popped with the PEDs, got popped running some pregnant woman off the road.
There was that thing where he grabbed a stripper. He was doing all this stuff.
Now he's trying to say, I don't want to fight. I deserve Wilder money. John, you keep hurting yourself more. Just shut up. But, you can look at Khabib. I personally believe that, based particularly on this last fight, I don't think I've ever seen a performance that dominant in my entire life of watching MMA. And now hearing what Cormier says afterwards, when you talk about the fact that he had the wherewithal in a title fight, in probably his defining moment in the cage, the fact that he knows is going to be his retirement, he knows he's going to retire after, he has the wherewithal to say, first of all, because when he finished the arm triangle, which is we heard later when Cormier, he did that arm triangle for Mount, which God is holy shit. When have you ever seen that done? When is an MMA fighter going to give up Mount for a goddamn arm triangle for a triangle?
That honestly sounds like, and I hate to bring his name up into this just because it breaks my heart a little bit. That sounds like some Tony Ferguson shit.
yeah, it does, but it's still like, who would ever?
It's bonk. Even Eddie would go to Tony and go like, "What do I?"
Well, you have, particularly when you have a very dominant mounted position with plenty of time on the clock to just pound Gaethje, to do what you do, because Khabib is a ground and pound guy apparently, but he purposely went to that submission because it was his father's favorite submission. It's insane. Like, those are things that as black belts, like, I toy with my blue belts with in a rolling at the gym, because I want to try new things, or I feel like, oh cool, like I could just do this because it's a blue belt. That's the immense confidence that Khabib has in his game. His ability.
You want to know something that I think that Khabib has proven that gives him an edge over John in the GOAT debate is that, you can say a lot about what a champion needs to be, and John, for each of his fights, has adapted to the opponent, and he has been whatever he's needed to be to beat someone. But on the flip side with Khabib has not had to change at all. He's just himself, and everyone has failed to adapt to him. Literally, if you in your mind were to just map out I think even a casual MMA fan could map out how the average Khabib fight goes, and that's like you may think it's boring, but how crazy is it that a guy is able to do the same thing to everybody all the time, no matter what? Like 100%.
I hear that a lot. People use the name boring when they talk about Khabib, and I look at that and go, out of your mind? How could you say that Khabib is a boring fight? Look at the way he stalked Khabib down. Look at the way he threw flying knees at Gagey. Look at the way he, when he takes people down, it's exciting. He's not just a lay in prayer. Like GSP was a boring fighter. GSP would take you down, lay on top of you, do just enough to win rounds, and then move on, right? But he earned the right to do that. He's GSP. Like Khabib was looking like, telling people you should quit. I'm the greatest. Like, it's amazing to me that people would even use Khabib and boring in the same sentence. It just blows my mind. Now, to answer your question about the GOAT status, unfortunately, we can talk. There's different levels of GOAT. Like, you could talk about the guy who was probably the greatest to ever do it for a short period of time. And I think Khabib definitely falls into that category. I mean, there's guys like that, were flashes in the pan. They were
BJ Penn, the prodigy. Right. He's definitely up there.
But it's longevity.
John Jones, definitely. And I think that John Jones we're beginning to see the tapering off of his career, at least at light heavyweight. We were seeing him not look as mythical, not look as indestructible. Look at Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes got that far, and look at what happened when he went against Jan Blachowicz. The MMA math is one thing, but also it's weird to see the drop off, and you could say that that's something to do with Dom more so than
the idea of who is the greatest of all time in any sport or any endeavor is always debatable, because you can always find pros and cons to anything. You can always, and it's a lot of it's due to personal opinion. I personally believe that John Jones is probably higher on the list as far as the GOAT goes than Khabib, simply because he did it for a long period of time. One of my major criteria when we talk about the GOAT is longevity. Like, you have to be able to maintain over the long haul for extended period of time, which is why I still believe Gordon Ryan has some ways to go before we can talk about him being a GOAT. Now, is he is in the small time frame that Gordon Ryan and Khabib competed? Are they probably the most dominant figures in the history of MMA? I really believe they are. But
I think something to look at with, and I agree with you. I think longevity is important, but also look at the people John's beaten. They're titans of the sport. But are any of them as important to the fabric of MMA today than Conor McGregor? In terms of just name recognition. He's the most popular guy in the world for mixed martial arts. It's not even close. And Khabib made him look like he shouldn't even be there.
Right.
Like, he was drawing it out just so he could pummel him more. And no matter what bullshit McGregor posts on social media, like, oh, these two are just like on the real shit. Like, no one believes that anymore.
I saw Kobe Covington say some things about, the reason why Khabib never went up to 170 is because he's scared of you. Like, bro, Khabib ain't scared of anyone. That guy.
There are heavyweights. There are heavyweights in the UFC right now that Khabib could beat.
Yeah, they want no part of Khabib.
Heavyweight.
He's a huge man. He probably walks around 190 pounds. Completely hydrated. He's a big dude. He's real big. He has a hard time cutting that weight.
He could bulk up and just be a fat 220, like just a beer gut, and still just beat everybody. Like, you could put him in. It's for me. It is like, do people? For me, the guy, like your longevity, but for me, it's, do people have an answer for you? And truthfully, no one at all has had an answer for him and what he does. He's not had to evolve at all. He is. Right. He's not some like organism that needs to evolve and change and adapt. He's the fucking meteor that starches an entire planet.
He's an apex predator. He does what he does, and he says, okay, that's very cute. If you'd like to try to stop it, you're more than welcome to, but I'm going to continue to do what I do. And he goes at it with reckless abandon. And that's why I go back to the boring part. If you think Khabib was boring, like you're not watching the same sport I'm watching.
I have a theory with guys like Khabib, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like there's an uncle, one of my uncles, Eddie. He was a pole vaulter for Cornell, and for many years he held a record for like the height. Just because it was like he was nationally ranked. He was like the best pole vaulter the school had ever had. And no one touched his record for a long time until years later, a kid, like a freshman or something, pole vaulter, contacted him. I'm not sure how old he was. He contacted my uncle and asked, I need you to help train me to beat your record. Like he had to go to the guy to beat it. And they worked together for a while, and the kid ended up beating his record. And so
right.
I think that there's something that you can only get from a person like Khabib. Like, I really don't think we're going to see another Khabib until he has kids and or opens up a gym, like starts training people.
Yeah, and there's that really cool part of it that, and you can say whatever you want to do. Yeah. Same thing with Marcelo Garcia. Like, they went out on their terms. They decided to say one day, you know what? I don't care anymore. I'm done with the fight. I'm done with the game. My father passed away. I think he's still going to come back for enough money. But I don't know. He has enough mental fortitude to not care about. Marcelo Garcia hasn't come back yet. Like, I'm done with it. I've accomplished everything I've wanted to accomplish. You guys can debate all you want. There's that feeling of contentment that only true apex warriors can have. That they don't have to feel the linger. Like, they don't have to be Anderson Silva to come back and try to attain something that's off. They don't have to be BJ Penn to come back when they're really past their prime because they feel like they still have to prove something to someone. Like, they are content with moving on their life. And, he probably doesn't need the money. I don't know what it costs to live in Dagestan, but you got a couple $1 million in Dagestan. You're probably living like a king for a long, long time. Plus the fact he's a national treasure in Russia. They're gonna take care of him forever.
When his dad first came down with COVID, Putin airlifted him to like the best hospital in the country. Putin, the guy in charge. Like, outside of like Colby, what athlete would Trump do anything like that for? That's obviously apples and oranges. Russia is a very different place. They is different bag of worms, but still, like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, we could talk all day long about what makes the GOAT, and when there's parts of people that can truly debate Khabib being the GOAT simply because of all the same way people could debate Marcelo Garcia being the GOAT simply because there's this whole level of mysticism, this whole level of what could have been, what might have been in the future if he would have continued to fight. Because I think if he continues to fight, I don't know anybody's going to fucking beat him. But you never know because he hung it up. So there you go.
Yeah, and to Khabib, 1,000,000 to 1 chance you're watching this, but thanks for the memories, man. You're one of the best to ever do it. No doubt in my mind. People are going to be looking at tape of Khabib and trying to recreate, like how Kobe tried to recreate Jordan, and everyone tried to recreate, Gretzky. People are going to try and solve that problem and figure out how the hell do you do that. And until someone actually has the stones to move to Dagestan and just raise a kid fighting bears, you're not going to get it.
That's a special person that's once in a lifetime. I don't think we're going to see that again. These
Until you go to Yellowstone National Park and you just pick a fight with a baby bear cub, you're done.
You ain't doing that again. What's next?
Moving on. Speaking of apex predators, we'd be remiss not to talk about one 10th Planet phenom, Grace Gundrum, submitting Patty Fontes at Fight to Win, 155, new champion, via Dead Orchard, coined by one of our earliest guests, Nate Orchard. Did you end up seeing this match?
You know what? I haven't seen it, but I read your breakdown of it, and it seems to be very typical of the typical Grace Gundrum match. She pulls guard, closes her guard up, locks somebody down in her ridiculous pressure that she doesn't. That you look at her, she's some little, she looks like something out of a Japanese horror film, like little small, like frail thing, and her ability to be able to lock people down and pull them in and control their posture is just otherworldly.
Real quick, brief shout out to a teammate of mine and someone that haunts my nightmares on a pretty regular basis. Gabby Etzel was also on the card, had an amazing finish. Just love the armbar, amazing finish from her, and she is terrifying. She's actually working in a haunted house right now, scaring people with how good a closed guard is.
Oh my God! Is that Gabby's closed guard?
Oh no, I'm done. I'm trapped.
All the terrified white belts and blue belts.
Oh, dude, purple and brown belts too, man. She doesn't discriminate. But yeah, so this was just an amazing match, and I think it's funny to see this current resurgence of 10th Planet standouts with dynamite finishes. We had Keith Krikorian just got promoted after his win. John Blank, Grace. What do you think? Or is this just a natural, like, some teams are on top, some teams are on bottom for a while, or like are we seeing some new stuff from the 10th Planet crew?
I'm happy to see 10th Planet getting their place at the table again. They've been doing it for a little while, but it's good to see them get acknowledged for they are. I was just talking to, I remember who I talked to the other day, but I was talking about the fact that, 10th Planet is now starting not just to be the submission only type guys, even though this was a submission only match, but you're starting to see them pop up in ADCCs. You're starting to see them pop up in regular tournament styles with points and things like that. And it's cool to see a system as evolved as Eddie Bravo's become accepted as real jiu-jitsu, because a lot of people for a long time just kind of thought, oh, geez, that 10th Planet thing, that's just some stoner offshoot of jiu-jitsu that Eddie Bravo put together to market to the counterculture to get people involved. I mean, Grace Gundrum's a force of nature. Like, Thor is a force of nature. Who's the other cat who's got his black belt?
Keith Krikorian.
Keith Krikorian. He's a force of nature. Like, these guys are amazing jiu-jitsu practitioners on all levels. Another thing, just to kind of bring it up for a second, is Zach Maloney. I follow him on Instagram. I've had him on the Old Man Grappling Hour before. Like, his name should be spoken more as an elite level coach. Like, that grace comes from his school. Zach, Thor comes from his school. John Blank from school. He's got another guy, Zach Maloney or something. I forget now his name. Actually, what's his name? Big tall kid. I can't think of his name. He's going to be pissed off because I think it's Sergi Zachary or something like that. I rolled with him over at Thor's place. He's another guy out there on the no-gi scene all the time. But like, whatever they're doing up there in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, I think they're at, like, they're doing the right thing, because they're putting out some really good talent. Maybe we can get Zach on here one day.
No doubt. That would be an awesome guest to have. But I think it's kind of cool that I didn't plan this, truthfully, that we're talking about Khabib and his dominance, and then we move on to talking about Grace, just because, again, very similarly to Khabib in MMA, he's going to get the takedown. He's going to either just beat you to a pulp, get the decision, and he's going to look untouched while you look like a mangled fruit, or he's going to get the submission on you just because his pressure is incredible. With Grace, same thing. You're going to end up in her closed guard, then you're going to end up in a rubber guard, and then you're going to end up in the dead orchard or a triangle or some such bendy trickery. Do you think it's appropriate to start talking about her in that way? I know she's young, she just got her black belt, but it's truly, she's taking that move and lighting the women's, like, sub-only scene on fire with it.
Well, I mean, Patty Fontes is ridiculous.
And she's no joke.
Yeah, she's no joke. She's been competing at a very high level for a long time. I think Grace, how old is she? She's only 18. She's just a baby.
I think she's either 18 or 19. 18 or 19,
still, though, that's still just a child. She's another one of the new breed of grappler that has been starting from that young age where they learn at an accelerated pace, and now they're becoming adults. I mean, they have literally forgotten more about jiu-jitsu than we'll ever know. It's just a part of who they are because they learn at that period where their bodies and brains are designed to absorb information. And now she's out there showing what she's got. I'm excited for the future to see what she has to bring. I still, in my heart of hearts, is the freaking old school guy that I am. I'd like to see a traditionalist that I am. I'd like to see her win in ADCC or win in IBJJF just to kind of show that she can do it in the points game. So she doesn't get labeled as that submission only girl, but I think she's completely capable of doing that.
I think that this is a dick thing to say, just because I know she's 10th Planet and I know it's not her bag. But whenever I see a high-level 10th Planet guy, and we had Nate on, and he talked about this a little, but I want to see him throw on the gi. I want to see him throw on. I just want, just like.
Dude, I'll say this all the time. And again, the more and more I read up on the history, we'll say it again. If you haven't read Opening Closed Guard by Robert Drysdale, you're missing
probably
it.
Maybe next week we'll be doing that.
Yeah, I'm almost through it. I've got I'm about 200 pages in. I'm going to dedicate myself to try to knock that thing out.
Oh, right on. I can't wait to talk to you about it. It's really good.
But I'm about halfway through it. But the more and more I'm reading on it, the more and more I'm realizing that it's all the same shit. The people that like to draw distinctions, you're just being blah. It doesn't make a difference. And in that same frame, like the 10th Planet people, if they ever put a gi on, like if you took Grace or you took Nathan Orchard or you took Boogie and you put him in a gi, like they would be a slight learning curve for them, but eventually it's all jiu-jitsu. They're going to figure out how to maintain and control this. Instead of a meat hook, they're just going to grab that lapel and rip it over. And
I think we start suddenly seeing like an influx of 10th Planet people just dominate like gi tournaments, just because now people got to deal with some stuff that they weren't dealing with before. And, it's just not, okay, we can't heel hook, but we can do all this other stuff.
I don't get it myself. I don't understand why people are like, oh, no gi is this, or oh, gi is this. It's just jiu-jitsu, man. I don't know why you can't, find it in your heart to do both. But
it's all love and jiu-jitsu.
It is what it is. I think it comes down to more than anything marketing. It's just my opinion, but whatever, no big deal. Move on with it.
All right. I think one last thing I wanted to talk about briefly, and it's more about it's a bit of an MMA episode, but it's more about when like the pro MMA fighters like want to delve a little bit deeper into the world of jiu-jitsu. If they didn't already come from there, we got Rose Namajunas, former champion, absolute legend of the women's division. Stopped by the Blue Basement with her Death Squad and started did some training with Ryan Hall. And I wanted to ask you, as someone who probably runs into a lot of these cats, when you get an MMA fighter, say they're maybe not as accomplished and learned as Rose, but a decent MMA fighter that comes to you and says, I want to get more into jiu-jitsu. What does their path look like compared to someone who's just starting jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu's sake?
It's going to be accelerated. It all depends on what they want to get out of it. It'll be accelerated because obviously if you're looking to be an MMA fighter, you're looking to train at that next level. So you're going to fight and do jiu-jitsu at that next level. So anytime across the board someone is an MMA fighter, you're going to be in for a tough role. They're just going to be hard-nosed, tough, probably very good positionally wise, very difficult to sweep because they're accustomed to throwing punches. They're not going to tap very easily. They're going to be hard to hold down. All the normals that you would consider to be a next-level athlete. But I guess the advice, and this is the advice I always give to athletes that come to me that want to be better at MMA and start to use jiu-jitsu. Like, I don't ever tell them, okay, cool, I'm going to show you a different curriculum or a different style of jiu-jitsu that's more apt to your MMA. I will, upon teaching things, make little distinctions to say, okay, well, cool, like now from this position, I would do X, Y, Z in an MMA fight as opposed to a jiu-jitsu match. But the idea is, you have to get better at the individual aspects of MMA in order to become a successful MMA fighter. And that's one of the biggest things I have problems with when I see up-and-coming fighters. And again, it's debatable. Other people, coaches have different ideas in this. But I believe if you're going to be a UFC fighter, if you're going to be an MMA fighter, you don't just train MMA, right? You train boxing. You train Muay Thai. You train the individual elements that make you a better Muay Thai fighter, that make you a better MMA fighter. You train wrestling independent of your jiu-jitsu, independent of striking, so that you become better at those individual aspects of MMA. So in that accord, when you're training jiu-jitsu, you train jiu-jitsu to be a jiu-jitsu athlete, to learn the skill sets of jiu-jitsu. Upon now, your reaction time and your reasoning and your thought processes during an actual fight will be ready and applicable to what you're doing in jiu-jitsu. And I see so many people that are like, well, I'm just going to go spar. I'm just going to do MMA training. So, well, you're doing yourself a disservice. You should get better at all aspects. It's just like same thing I say about the gi. Like, if you're training MMA, and again, this is debatable and contentious, a bunch of other coaches, but I mean, I don't see any reason why you can't train in the gi, get better at jiu-jitsu, focus on becoming a gi athlete and getting your black belt in the gi, and not being a successful MMA fighter. It's just silly. It's silly to me because you're learning how to think using jiu-jitsu and address, which is what you do in an MMA fight.
Hang on 1 second. I think this is worth bringing up, but
yeah.
What the fuck are they feeding Nicky Ryan?
Oh man.
Did I blink and he just started like
I'll just say he's a kid.
I know
he's a baby. He went from being we've watched him grow from a 15-year-old little, like, think about every 15-year-old you ever seen. They don't have muscles. They're all just kind of like gangly little things. Now he's growing into a 19, 20-year-old man. He's hitting that growth spurt the same way Gordon Ryan did. And I'll defend Gordon Ryan forever. I don't know for sure he's not doing any freaking juice, but I will say this, that when you hit that second growth spurt in your 22, 23, and that pretty much correlates with what Gordon Ryan's growth has become. You put on that kind of man muscle and man density and man weight right around 23, 24, and that's pretty consistent with what we've seen with Gordon Ryan's growth. And if Rick Nicky is anything like Gordon, he's got the same genes, he's going to be a monster too.
Listen, he's one of them's got a rash guard on, so it's a little hard to tell. But I'm thinking Nicky's traps might even be bigger than Gordon's. He's looking like a goddamn Ninja Turtle. Like, holy shit.
He does look like a Ninja Turtle. With creepy John Danaher as Splinter.
The creepiest version of Splinter. If Splinter wasn't making more.
Yeah, Gary Tonin is definitely like the
most normal looking human.
He's like he's the Donatello or the. I don't know who's the wacky one. I don't know anything about the Ninja Turtles.
He's Mikey. He's Mikey. He's got the nunchucks and he's all about pizza. Right. Like, I got a weapon that maybe doesn't work. All right. Well, that's we were looking for just a little news blast and sort of a casual. Man, this lady makes my cheekbones look phenomenal.
You want to talk about Cyborg? Didn't we talk a little bit about Cyborg?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we got a little bit more time.
I got about 5-10 more minutes.
5-10 more minutes. Okay, so I'll bring it up here, but until I do, Chris Cyborg, one of the most dominant MMA athletes of all time, recently got promoted to black belt after about 8 years at brown belt, and a lot of people thought this was appropriate. I didn't really see any complaints from anybody. Here we go. She earned it from Cobrinha, so that's about as legit as you could get. No one's gonna talk to that guy about who does and does not deserve rank. And actually, she won some pretty sizable gold medals, I believe, at purple belt a few years ago. So, and it's interesting. She's been putting in time in the gi. She said that as much, and she's been open about that. What do you think? Yeah, do you think now that she's taken? She's in Bellator. Her UFC days are done. Maybe her schedule is looking a little lighter. Do we see Cyborg go after ADCCs? Do we see her go after? Does she get an invitation to ADCC just because she's
I don't know about an invitation. She might get a super fight. She might get paid to do a super fight. That would be more likely. I think that they were trying to get Khabib to do a super fight. Mo kind of
Mo was. It's funny that we're talking about Khabib and moved on, but like Tony was talking about in an interview, I think with Bloody Elbow or MMAfighting.com, I'm not sure which, but he was talking about how he still wants to fight Khabib. He thinks he's going to be back in the MMA, but if he doesn't, then he'd be willing to go on Submission Underground. Heather, friend of the show, posted about it earlier, so that would be, grappling match, Tony Ferguson, Khabib. I'd be very interested in seeing that.
That'd be pretty cool. They ended up fighting.
Tony just bite his ear off on Tyson.
Punching each other in the face. Tony Ferguson is a little bit unhinged lately. He's a little bit creepy. Unless I can punch him in the face, I don't think I'd want anything. I don't want to be very close to Tony Ferguson too much. It kind of creeps me out.
We're planning to have Danielle Kelly on pretty soon. Scheduling conflicts had to push it a little bit, and she just had a really exciting match against Roxanne Modafferi, a standout friend of the show, our best friend.
Right.
Is that true? No, but I'm gonna say it.
We're going to say it anyway.
Yeah, because we love her. She's great, and she looked great during that match before the toe hold. I think there is a definite market for crossover matches with established MMA stars and grappling specialists. With that in mind, who would you want to see Chris Cyborg go against, and why is it Gabby Garcia?
I don't know that Cyborg is big enough to go against Gabby Garcia. I mean, Gabby Garcia is a gargantuan. Yeah, I don't know.
No disrespect to Gabby Garcia. Yeah. No disrespect to Gabby Garcia. She is a game changer.
But to be perfectly honest with you, Cyborg would have to prove herself a little bit more on the jiu-jitsu scene to go after some of the elites like the Claudia Devals and the girls that are out there really tearing up the jiu-jitsu scene. But that's not to say that they don't figure out a way to get Cyborg on a show if it's profitable for her. And I'm sure that now in the market of professional jiu-jitsu, it is very profitable for ex-MMA fighters, UFC stars to get on a big card because they get paid to do it. So if the money's right, get her on there, man. It's be something to see. I'm sure she's skilled. I mean, God, she fought forever. I'm surprised. When I heard she's got her black belt, I was like, really? She's on a black belt? I just assumed she was a black belt. She must. If she's trained under Cabrina, he probably wanted her to dedicate herself to the gi a little bit more, and she probably had.
I think, and now it's shitty to bring up lineage just because I feel like that that's fallen by the wayside. No one cares where you come from or who you get your belt from. Like you're that belt, but it is Cobrinha that's giving her a black belt. So does that mean she doesn't have to prove a whole lot in competition? Because she's definitely, if she's in Cobrinha's gym, she's rolling with legit grapplers. Not just MMA black belts and brown belts. She's rolling with legit practitioners. And she doesn't seem like the type that would take the easy way out and just say I deserve anything.
I think that, and Ed, I don't know because I haven't seen her on the competition feed until she goes out there and wins an IBJJF Worlds or wins an ADC trials.
Well, she's had gold. She's won gold at purple. So
yeah, but
this was a long time ago
at the black belt level, at the truly elite level. She'd have to go out there and win some big things before they give her a truly elite level grappler. Until that point, she could make her name for herself in the crossover market against a lower level girl. Maybe there's a girl that won the trials out of Danaher's school. She trains under Jay. She's actually one of Danielle's training partners. Is a little bit bigger girl, and I can't remember her name. Amanda something, I think her name is. Redheaded girl. That would be a good matchup for her. There's a couple other girls out there on the scene that could give Cyborg a good crossover MMA jiu-jitsu crossover match, but I don't think she's ready to get a really true elite level jiu-jitsu practitioner.
It's a shame that the perfect venue for her would probably be Submission Underground, but given how dicey her exit from the promotion was, and that or the UFC was, and that Submission Underground is on UFC Fight Pass, I don't know if Dana would okay it, even though the views would be ridiculous. People would buy out the ass for
someone will figure it out. I think Mo might figure out a way to get her on an ADCC. If you're listening, Mo, get her on the ADCC super fight. I think that would be a good matchup for her. But who knows? Maybe she don't want to do it. Maybe she's making it what she want to do in Bellator. And the money would have to be right, I think.
That's the best part about MMA star. I think just as a final note, MMA stars going over to the grappling scene a little bit. And I know there's some purists that have problems with it, but I think, the rising tides raising all ships saying applies here, because these are highly visible public figures that are injecting a non-zero amount of attention into just traditional grappling. So Cyborg's following is such that anything she does is going to get attention. She does a charity 5K, it gets views. Like just her running in a circle during a turkey trot or something.
That gold level, platinum level marketability in the fighting world.
She's genuine. She's won belts in almost every major promotion. I think Strikeforce, Bellator, UFC, Invicta. In what else? That's it. I don't think she has anything in Pride. Oh no,
yeah, she still has some mileage on her for promoters to take advantage of. I think it's just a matter of when she's done with her MMA career and if they can figure out a way to make it worth her while to train for an event. Yeah, but who knows? Maybe she wants to do it for the Georgia Jiu-Jitsu. Maybe now she just wants to dedicate herself to competing in Jiu-Jitsu just to kind of get that competitive fire out of her. We'll see how she does. If Cabrina gave her a black belt, she's probably pretty good.
Mo, I'm going to give you $1 million idea, and you can just take it and do whatever you want with it. Chris Cyborg, Ronda Rousey judo match.
Wow. That's not even competitive. MMA or jiu-jitsu match is fine. That would be funny though.
It would be funny if Ronda is so overconfident that she lets Chris get the arm bar as she's being thrown, which it still flies.
Jiu-jitsu match is something that could be done though. I would see them. I don't know if they do it in the gi. Let them do it in the gi. But I'd do it in no gi, whatever they do. I think ADCC, Ronda Rousey, Cyborg that is $1 million idea. That's a big one right there. Let's make that happen. All right, Kev, I got to go. I got things to do. I love you, buddy.
Well, let us read each other out because this was a really good, dense bit of an episode for all of you fans out there to chew on for a little bit. We both got to go do life stuff. My fiance has been patiently waiting for me to finish up, and the same could be said about.
She's a good girl. Tell her I said hi.
Kevin G says hi. Hi, Kevin. He says hi. That's Shanice, everybody. Shanice made her official entrance into the podcast. That's great.
Yeah, we had a little chat with her.
Yeah, a little chat with her. All right. Well, this has been another hilarious and life-affirming episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I am your host. I've been your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Kevin Gallagher, right over there. Stay safe, stay healthy, and protect your neck because it's crazy out there. Good night.
See you guys.